Good evening. I'm Sean Roman, pinch hitting for Nisa Petrilli.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
And I'm Anthony Strait.
And this is On the Sports Lines for March 3rd, 2016. The beginning of March brings us the Grapefruit and Cactus League games of baseball's exhibition season, and also the conference tournament games of college basketball's pre-March madness. Now we're going to look at players to watch for both the Mets and Yankees, and also new managers under the microscope on 3 other teams. Then we will make the case for potential number 1 seeds and the teams that need to fare well in their conference tournaments. As always, we would love to hear from you, so please email us at fanSpeak@onthesportslines.com. Where should they send their tweets?
Send your tweets to @OnTheSportsLines and your Facebook post to facebook.com/OnTheSportsLines.
The Mets' quest to defend their National League pennant has begun at Port St. Lucie. They open Grapefruit League today against their NL East rivals, the Washington Nationals. There are plenty of storylines, but our guys are going to look at 3 players to watch this spring. Jay, who are you most interested to see?
I'm looking at the Mets captain, David Wright. Now, as everybody knows, he missed 4 months last season with a hamstring and a diagnosis of spinal stenosis. How are the Mets going to manage his playing time? Will they play him less games or just less innings? Now, most players need about 75 to 100 at-bats in the 30 spring games that most teams get to get themselves ready for the season. Is Wright going to get those at-bats, or are the Mets going to use April to get him to play in shape? Here's the thing. He played 24 games in September after coming off the DL. His slash line was respectable, 280, 385, 452, 3 homers, 12 RBI. If you extrapolate that over the 130 games that they hope he's going to play, 16 homers, 65 RBIs. If they get that out of him, the Mets should say, thank you, Steve.
Yes, absolutely.
His condition is manageable. It is not curable. He's never going to be the 330, 100 homer hitter he was, RBI guy or a Gold Glover again. Here's the thing. Wright would like to play more. He has said, you know what, I want to play more, but he knows that he has to be smart about this. He has to communicate with Terry Collins. They got to work this out. And Collins says, we may have to give him days off even when he's feeling good. Now, this is a Mets season that could drag on into October, so they need to keep him rested. And, guys, I think Terry Collins should place a phone call to Greg Popovich, who knows a thing or two about managing playing time for aging superstars.
Jay, do you think this is his last year?
No, absolutely not.
Steve?
Well, I'm going to be looking at the newest Met that they acquired in the offseason for John Neese. That would be Neil Walker. Neil Walker is, let me tell you, compared to Daniel Murphy, eons better defensively.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first thing you have to look at. One of my friends said to me, well, Daniel Murphy only made 6 errors last year, but how many balls did he misplay, and how much range, how little range did he have? That's the question. When you watch Neil Walker, this guy has a lot more range. He's a smart player. He doesn't make the crazy throws, the stupid plays. He's a pretty good hitter, and he actually has more power than Daniel Murphy. So I think what the Mets are going to get, having him up the middle, is a more stable, solid defense, and the Met pitchers definitely will appreciate that.
He's also a better hitter, I think, all
And
the way
Anthony,
around.
Who's your eye going to be on?
Speaking of pitchers, you know what? We signed a bat sitting note. I'm going to talk about Matt Harvey, the Dark Knight himself. And here's the thing. The first full season off of Tommy John, he goes 13-8, which is respectable in most cases. And we all know about the pitch count controversy that took place.
Oh, yes.
But one thing I noticed last season, and I actually, got the chance to see a couple of his starts up close, and I noticed this over the weekend, is that he was almost exclusively a fastball pitcher coming back from Tommy John. The slider was nowhere to be found in his repertoire until later on in the season. Obviously, I'm holding a baseball. It's a good prop, by the way, but if you look closely, this is how you throw a typical break for a slider. Yeah. It's not really the pitch as much as the break and the movement.
Yep.
And he didn't have the confidence until the season started to progress between that full start against Washington to open the year up, and then you see Game 5 last year against Kansas City where he had the fastball that was going mid to high 90s, and actually had the late break in it. His slider is the strikeout pitch by far because he had Kansas City really off balance for those 8 innings. What happened in the 9th inning, his fastball flattened out, the slider, it caught the slider, it was a wrap. If he can get that slider and get the confidence back, you know what, I'm thinking Cy Young candidate this season.
We'll see.
Hey guys, and I think Cespedes gave the Mets the shot in the arm that they got last year.
Absolutely.
He gave him another shot in the arm in the offseason. My eyes going to be on him in terms of really leading this team offensively.
And what card did he come into spring training today, by the way?
The Yankees' annual pursuit of a World Series trophy has begun in Tampa. Their Grapefruit League games began yesterday against the Detroit Tigers. There were a few new additions this offseason, and they are among the players our guys have their eye on this spring. This time we'll start with Anthony. Who are you going to be looking at in spring training season?
Obviously, the big acquisition, Roldis Chapman, the closer, the Cuban Missile, the Cuban flamethrower. Pretty much he's high heat. I call him Sriracha at this point. He holds the MLB record for the fastest pitch recorded, 105 miles per hour. He's at 106 at one point.
Wow.
But also, when you look at the fact that he's a 4-time All-Star, 4 straight All-Star games, 146 career saves, 33 last season for the Cincinnati Reds. What he brings to the Yankees bullpen is a shutdown closer that they haven't had since number 42 finally hung it up for good. You pair him with Miller, Betances as well. You got a very formidable bullpen that throws a lot of high heat. However, he won't be around for the first month because he was suspended 30 games because of the whole domestic violence incident from October. But here's the thing, he did not appeal, and that's a key because you know why? Because if it's 30 days or less, he would have lost his
free agency.
He would have lost his eligibility for free agency. He's still a free agent, so right now he's on rental for the Yankees.
Yep, his first game back will be May 9th against the Royals, ironically.
What do you got?
Ironic.
I'm going to be looking at Masahiro Tanaka. He had surgery to move a bone spur in his elbow in the offseason, but his partially torn ulnar collateral ligament is still, even though it wasn't an issue, it's still going to be in the back of everybody's mind. Though, ironically, the post-op MRI of his elbow after surgery said the ligament has actually improved. So go figure. And it wasn't really a problem. His bullpen sessions prior to exhibition games were promising. Through all of his pitches, no problems. He said he felt good afterwards. Said it's the best he's physically felt since he's come to the States. Now, here's the thing. If Joe Girardi starts managing the rotation to set up Tanaka to pitch opening day, that means the Yankees feel confident that he's as close to 100% as a guy with a partially torn UCL can be. Now, he only needed 4 exhibition starts last year to get himself ready. Pitching coach Larry Rothschild seems to think he should only need that this year. So as long as, there's no major setbacks. He got it out 24 starts and 154 innings last year, and the Yankees were very careful with him. They're hoping they don't have to be this season because they really can't afford it. This guy's the nominal ace of the staff. They need him to make 30-plus starts, throw 200-plus innings. Now, his velocity, even though he has not been at 100%, has been 91, 92. He's been able to throw his splitter around the 25% range that he wants to, and his whip's been around 1. If all that stays, and we see that in his spring starts and in his bullpen sessions, it'll be telling. And it's going to be what I'm going to be watching.
Okay.
Well,
Steve.
I'm going to be looking at one of the newer Yankees that they acquired in the offseason. That will be Starlin Castro. And Starlin Castro, you can talk about him offensively. He's a terrific offensive player. At age 26, he's already been in 2 All-Star games. He was traded basically for Adam Warren, who was a very useful pitcher for the Yankees because he could pitch in multiple roles. But Starlin Castro is a terrific hitter. He's also gotten to be a better second baseman. He came into the league in the National League with the Cubs as a shortstop, where he used to make quite a few errors. But if you see the rocket arm this guy has, the quickness and speed he plays the position now that he's moved to second base, he has a chance to be a tremendous second baseman. Maybe almost as close to what Robinson Cano was, because I think with the Yankees, he'll probably hit a few more home runs. He's a very tough out and very good player, and he'll only get better. The other thing about him is they're going to let him play third base a little bit as well.
Their intent is to work him out there a little bit. Probably because Teixeira coming off the injury is going to need some days off, in which case Headley's going to move over to first. So
Arm-wise, he can play that position.
I think it's so significant that nobody on this panel said A-Rod because he had such a quality season last year that nobody's even looking at him anymore.
Nope.
They're just
Well,
expecting him to play baseball.
He's going to be a good
exactly.
DH for
All
the
right.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. 5 teams are going to start the season in baseball with new managers. So our guys are going to give you their take on what 3 of them need to figure out this spring. We're going to look at Don Mattingly of the Marlins, Dusty Baker of the Nationals, and Dave Roberts of the Dodgers. Steve, start us off with Mr. Roberts.
You know, Dave Roberts, and a lot of us remember him when he played for the Red Sox and had that big stolen base.
Don't
in the
remind
playoffs.
me.
And I'll leave that out because I have Yankee fans sitting right near me here. But I will also tell you he's one of the smarter players in the game. He's a very calm guy. I think the Dodgers need somebody like this, not only for Yasiel Puig, who we all know can be a huge headache, but he's also a fundamentally sound player. And in his playing days, he was a very good contact line drive type hitter, played the outfield well, played an intelligent game. And I think he's the type of guy that players will feel comfortable going to when they have issues on or off the field. So I'm interested to see how all this works out, especially with Puig being there. But I think he's going to do some things with that team that probably haven't been done before in a very different way.
Also, I'm loving this whole glasses thing. I feel like we're going to trip on some slap shot right now. But
You calling us the Hanson brothers?
hey, we rock. How about that?
Fair
But
enough.
anyway, I'm looking at Don Mattingly, the new skipper in town in terms of the Miami Marlins.
Got a job quick?
Yes, he
Oh
did.
yeah,
I knew he
definitely.
would.
And here's the thing too, is that
Good
I watched Don
disposition.
Mattingly last year. It like he was just burnt out.
He
I
was.
mean,
Yeah,
you had
he was.
you had all the pressure of the highest payroll in baseball. They had to do all the management with the McCoy side of the
McCoys,
street.
yeah.
But also, you just had guys that was being overpaid, and you just couldn't put them anywhere.
Yeah.
And it just resulted in Don Mattingly just kind of ran his course. But now he's just a fresh start in Miami. He's got a team with a high ceiling. He's going to get
Yes.
Giancarlo Stanton back from injury.
Yeah, if
he's
they
got
can
D.
keep him
Gordon.
healthy.
And yeah, he's trying to move Stanton in the cleanup spot to kind of, try to maximize that lineup a little bit. But also with, I look at Don Mattingly as his ability to be kind of a mentor. I saw with Matt Kemp, Clayton Kershaw in Los
Yes.
Angeles. He got a good young team that he can probably mentor as well. By the way, Fernandez as well.
Oh,
their
yeah.
ace.
Yeah, he's their
And
ace.
I feel like for Don Mattingly, this is a perfect spot for him because now he gets to be the mentor and not a babysitter as he was with the Dodgers.
Exactly.
Jay?
I'm looking at Dusty Baker, who is taking over the Washington Nationals after they fired Matt Williams. Baker is known as a player's manager,
Yes.
and that's been everybody's recognized that due to in his success with the Reds, with the Cubs, and with the Giants. I think he's going to need that skill set to restore what many believe has become a toxic locker room, highlighted by the friction between Bryce Harper and Jonathan Papelbon,
Yes.
that culminated in that dugout fight that got replayed on ESPN 50 million times. He's also a manager who values defense.
Yes, he
and
does.
one of his more common quotes is hard to play on my team if you can't catch. When he started with the Reds, he took a team that was 27th in errors, next to last in defensive efficiency, and by the time he left 5 years later, they were among the best in the National League,
Wow.
and actually in the majors in both categories. His Cubs teams were pretty solid. His Giant squads were very good.
Yes.
So improving the Nationals from average to more, above average is going to be a big goal of his. They have a solid pitching staff, and if they get full seasons from Jason Worth, Ryan Zimmerman, and Anthony Rendon, all of whom played less than 100 games
That's
last
right.
year, it'll be a solid offense and batting order built around Bryce Harper. But here's the thing. If Baker can get them to turn more hits into outs, they may actually give the Mets a little bit of competition.
All
in the
right,
NL
Jay,
East.
we got to move on to
Let's
your
move
favorite
on.
topic of the year, which is March Madness.
Oh, yeah.
It is
his
right
favorite.
around the corner. So we're going to spend the rest of our little show on our own version of Bracketology. First, we're going to look at who we feel deserves one of the 4 top lines on the bracket. We're going to exclude top-ranked Kansas, the Jayhawks, as they're the likely overall #1 seed. So, Anthony, start us off. Make your case for #1.
Let's see, it's the month of March, and we have Michigan State, which means Tom Izzo's teams are really peaking.
Yep.
Yes.
Between Death Taxes and Michigan State, that seems to be commonplace.
Pretty much.
But you
Yeah.
know what? They are the hottest team in college basketball right now. They have won 9 of their last 10 games. And remember, they lost 3 straight games in January, and it's rebounded very well. They kind of lost out on being able to try to get a share of the Big Ten regular season title
Yeah.
against
Yes.
Indiana clinched
Indiana.
that the other night. But when you look at their 25 wins, 12 and 5 in the Big Ten, ranked second, in AP polls. But you look at the RPI is 12. It's 12. That's to make a good case. And you look at some of their wins. They dropped 3 straight to Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska. But they do have 7 wins against top RPI 100 teams.
Okay.
But also, when you look at this team and why I feel like they should have be able to get number 1, it's the fact that they always can play defense. They can play all. They can score now.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yes, they
lead the
can.
nation in 3-point shooting. Denzel Valentine is a player
Player
of the year
candidate. Yeah,
by
without a
far.
doubt.
Yep.
And how about Brent Ford's performance last night with 11 3-pointers, tying a school record?
Curry-esque.
Wow.
That is
Curry-esque. Good
unbelievable.
word.
But then you pair him up with a bruiser like Matt Costello, and you have a really scary team that and I feel like they can really get hot and just kind of waltz their way through the Big Ten tournament and be sitting at the number 1 before you know it.
You know what?
All right, Anthony.
Michigan State doesn't care what seed they're at. They're dangerous no matter where
Yeah,
they
they
are.
could be a 6, 5, 7.
Yeah.
As they proved in the past. I'm
Well-
looking at the North Carolina Tar Heels. They're 24 and
This
6.
is like a biased pick. You shouldn't even
Well,
be allowed to
you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm
pick
gonna
like Xavier or
please, because Xavier's doesn't
I mean,
deserve a
but
number
take
1 seed.
take a team that you're not a fan of.
Well, let me tell you something, Sean. You can call me a fan, but as Steve knows, I'm harder on the teams I'm a fan of than
He
any
is.
other team.
He
So
is.
they're 13 and 4 in the ACC, tied with Miami at the moment. Their RPI is 9. Their strength of schedule against the rest of the nation is 44th. Now, to me, and I follow this team as you guys know, they're
Yes.
the most
Yes, you
vexing
do.
top 10 team I have
Yes.
seen in a while.
Yes,
there are
they
nights
are.
you watch them, and this team is unbeatable. They can run roughshod over anybody. They blew out Miami by 25. Miami's a top 10 team.
Yep.
Okay, and there are nights where you think they're going to get bounced in the first round. I mean, they freaking lost to Northern Iowa, who is a 95 RPI. Come on.
Wow.
All right, but I mean, for the most part, they've kind of their regression to the mean. They've been in pretty much what you expect from a Tar Heel team.
I think they're
on
solid,
paper.
too.
They've been back and forth. You know, they've been 1 and 2 on those lines all year. 13 and 4 is an ACC team that's likely to send 6 other teams to the NCAA. They have good wins against Maryland and against Miami. Their opponents that they've played this season have the number 10 strength of schedule in the nation, which is pretty good. If they beat Duke, which would give them another good win against the RPI top 25, they'll be ACC regular season champs, which in the past has usually been enough to warrant a number 1 seed. However, the thing that concerns me is they're only 2 and 4 against the ACC teams in the top 50. Virginia is fighting with them. Michigan State fighting with them on the 1 line. They're going to have to do a bit of damage in the tournament if they want to keep that 1 seed.
All right, Steve, give me your case.
Well, I'm going to go
You're
with
good at this.
Virginia, and I think if you talk about Virginia and you think about in the pro game the San Antonio Spurs, there's a little connection. They are pretty much what I would say the San Antonio Spurs are in the pro game.
Yep.
They run their tempo and their offense as well as anybody, and they will slow down any team they play with their style. Malcolm Brogdon, speaking of players of the year, this guy is having a phenomenal season. And their point guard, London Ferrantes, is about as organized setting up their plays as anybody. You have to like their style and the way they come across, because a lot of college teams just run the court, take bad shots. Not Virginia. They'll take it down to the last seconds of the clock, organize their plays, and they play very smart. And if Brogdon is
They make you work.
They make you work for every shot. They are a really, really good team.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up right now.
Anthony's got to go first.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. They get these teams right now are kind of scoreboard watching, like saying, hey, you know what? If they stumble, we got a shot here.
They do. Sean, who are you looking at?
I'm looking at Oklahoma because they're the team that's been number 1 for about half the season. They've
early
been
on.
much more of a threat at the perimeter than usual. Their staple is being a threat in the paint, and that's with they have the player of the year probably in Buddy Hield.
Yeah, he's up
he's
there.
And
He's in the
also,
conversation.
Ryan Spangler and Lon Kruger have been basically shooting very well from the outside. They have quality wins over Schuin, number 1, in Villanova, where they destroyed them, something like 85-57 or something like that.
wow.
They beat their rivals, Oklahoma State, twice. They beat Wisconsin, LSU. So I think that they've made a case for number 1 over the year. I think out of all the picks here over Jay's Tar Heels.
They have a very good shot. They're going to have to
they
do
do.
well
All
in the
right.
tournament, in the Big 12 tournament, though.
And now, how about we move on a bit? We're going to look at 3 teams looking to improve their bracket status during the conference championship tournaments. These teams are currently on the bubble, looking to get off it by Selection Sunday. Let's start with Steve. Which team do you think needs to impress the committee the most?
Well, I'm going to look at UConn, and they are an enigma to figure out in terms of what they're going to do. But when you look at their team and you look at their guard play, that's really one of their strengths. When you look at Sterling Gibbs, who's a terrific shooter, and Rodney Purvis, these guys definitely get them going offensively. But on the defensive side, they've got two very good centers, Stephen Enoch and Brinda. These guys block shots and rebound the heck out of the ball. They are very good players. But one of the reasons they may get in is because SMU actually is not going to be allowed into the tournament, and that's because of recruiting violations by our old friend Larry Brown.
Yeah,
we all know that name very well in these parts.
All right, gentlemen, we got to move on. Remember, 90 seconds till 3-minute warnings.
Here we go. I'm looking at Michigan, who is 20-10, 10-7 in the Big Ten. As of tonight, they're one of the last 4 wins in the bracket. West Region's 11-seed playing game. They do need to do a good showing in the Big Ten tournament, in my opinion. They need to start, however, by beating an Iowa team that is reeling. They get them on Saturday in the regular season finale. It's a good start because right now they're 3-8 against the RPI top 50. 11 wins in a competitive Big Ten. They're going to send 7 teams maybe. That's usually good enough. But Michigan's resume, 8 of the 14 teams in the Big Ten have 10 wins. So it may not be enough. They're 2-6 against the teams above them. 8 seed, which means they could play the 8-9 game. They're 4-0 against their possible opponents. If they can win that game and do better than the 13-point loss they had to Indiana, who would be their next opponent, they may be able to keep their status and stay as one of the last 4 in.
You're up, Anthony. Hit it.
I said this very quickly. Florida has really shot themselves in the foot.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
Helped Michigan in the process.
They went from automatically in to now being first 4 out right now. They lost 5. They lost 5 of their last 6. They only have 2 quality wins. St. Joe's and West Virginia. They've been living on those wins for a month. They lost a bad loss to Kentucky the other night.
That's right.
They're at the point where they basically have to run the table in the SEC tournament to get in because right now they're on the outside. It's too bunched up in the SEC. That's not going to get a lot of teams.
No,
in.
and they're probably only a 3 at best, a three-team bid. Maybe they get a 4th, but I don't think they're enough of a quality conference this year.
Hey, that music right there means it's time for our famous 3-minute warning. Anthony, lead us off.
Then, Sean, the New York Knicks are a mess. No surprise, considering they have been a mess since the end of the Patrick Ewing era. But can we please stop putting the Knicks demise squarely on the shoulders of Carmelo Anthony? When people complain that he never makes teams better, I quickly point to him and say, how about give him a better team? Since Melo's arrival in 2011, the Knicks have been through more cosmetic procedures than the Kardashians combined. 4 different team presidents, 4 different head coaches,
Very true.
and 3 total roster overhauls in 5 years. Yet somehow it's Melo's fault the Knicks can't win.
Good point.
Melo could have left to chase the rain like LeBron, but chose to stay and rebuild a winner from scratch. And the same fans who still bash LeBron for leaving now ridicule Melo for staying loyal. In reality, he is having his best all-around season in years. The notion that trading Melo would make the Knicks better overnight simply shows a fan base inability to learn the dangers of not appreciating superstars when they have them. The funny thing is, once upon a time, the same notion surrounded Ewing. To this day, the Knicks still haven't recovered.
Ian Desmond, Texas Ranger at the Crossroads. During the baseball offseason, like most fans, my attention turns to other sports like football and basketball. But I love hearing about the Hot Stove League. All the free agents signing in new places for hefty prices. But sometimes greed, hubris, and arrogance also rears its ugly head. Take former National shortstop Ian Desmond. 2 years ago, he inexplicably turned down a chance to sign a 7-year deal for $100 million because he thought he could get more on the open market. What was he thinking? With last year's average dropping to $233, his stock declined dramatically. It took almost all of the offseason for this genius to get signed. Now at 30, he can only get himself a 1-year, $8 million deal, and he had to change leagues and positions to do it, playing left field instead of shortstop for the Rangers. Now if he fails, he'll be Ian Desmond, the former star who thought he was A-Rod with power and a better attitude.
I'm Bronx born and raised. I've said on many an occasion that if you cut me open, I'd bleed pinstripes. But since the Yankees moved into their new stadium, I haven't been to as many games as I used to due to the price of tickets. And if Yankees Chief Operating Officer Lon Trost has his way, I may not be able to go at all. In an attempt to cut StubHub and other vendors who sell Yankees tickets at affordable prices to folks like you and me out of the secondary ticket market, the organization is doing away with tickets that can be printed out at home. If you want to go to a game, you either have to buy from the Yankees or their partner Ticketmaster at pretty much face value and get an actual ticket or one that can be downloaded to your phone to be scanned. Tross wants to turn Yankee Stadium into a country club where only the likes of Preston and Blair Trust Fund from Greenwich can come watch the Yankees play because they're the only ones who can afford the dues. He couldn't care less if Joe and Jane Six-Pack from Pelham Parkway can afford even bleacher seats to take their 2 kids to see the Bronx Bombers. Be careful what you wish for, Lon. Keep up this have versus have-nots ticket policy, and the next generation of Yankee haters won't be coming from Boston or even Flushing. They'll be coming from the neighborhoods that are a stone's throw from 161st Street and River Avenue.
Drum roll. Guess what championship is coming to New York City in 2016? And hold on to your excitement, fellas. It is the World Chess Championship. Woohoo! Now, this is something actually worth keeping an eye on, and it's wonderful to have in New York City, which is home to a great chess history with fantastic downtown clubs and parks all over, many filled with great New York City immigrants where you can play or hustle the day away. It's the first time in over 20 years the U.S. has been awarded the event. The last time was in 1995 when Garry Kasparov, the one chess name you may know, played on the 107th floor of the Old World Trade Center. Now, a 25-year-old Norwegian is the champion. His name is Magnus Carlsen. And 2 Americans right now are fighting for the privilege of playing Carlsen in a 12-match series that will take place between November 11th and November 30th. They are Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana. The site has not yet been named, but I would love to see somewhere in Brooklyn chosen to host a game or two, as that is where America's last world champion and greatest chess prodigy, Bobby Fischer, was raised. For Jay Kaplan, Steve Ferguson, and Anthony Strait, I am Sean Roman, and I'd like to thank you for spending part of your evening with us. We hope to see you on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. You better be wearing green on the Sports Lines, the March Madness edition. And please tune in to our Sunday March Madness Spreecast at 12 noon on March 13th. Remember, if you want to see this show again or catch up on any of those you may have missed, please check us out at youtube.com/onthesportslines. And where should they look at our blog?
Check out the Rabbi's latest piece at onthesportslines.blogspot.com.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.